Everybody, happy Sunday. Patty Rambles coming at you. I wanted to I wanted to explain something that is incredibly important. And I'm starting to come to the understanding that a lot of people, I don't believe, quite understand the fundamental difference between a token that has a team versus a token that is owned 100% by retail, that's community owned, that has a fully distributed supply. Okay? Let me give you the example. I'm going to make this as easy as possible. When a token that is fair launched, such as Suka, comes out, it's essentially a token that takes 100% of what the supply is going to be in full and just lets it all go. They create a liquidity pool on Uniswap, and the rest of the tokens become open, open for anyone to buy. So if somebody sees this new token and says, "Hey, I like it," they buy it. And if they buy it, obviously, if it just came out, the market cap's super small. However, it's a much higher risk, more speculative. You don't know what's going to come of it. So say you buy a little bit, price goes up a little bit, and then a bunch more people buy in. So now the point is, let's just say, a couple months go by, and that token that came out, the idea of the token was XYZ. It was a fair launch token, which means 100% of the supply was released into the market, and organically, individual retail buyers had the ability to either buy it or not. If they bought it, they put their own money into it, which means they have a vested interest, which is an important thing to remember. Okay, remember that. That's one person. They buy it, they spend their own money. So they say, I have a risk now because I put my own money into this. I need to make money. I want to make money. That's the goal, okay? So all these individuals that see this new token go, okay, it's a fair launch token, it's a speculative token. I think maybe it could be something. I'll throw a little money in it. Cool. 3 months go by, 6 months go by. Wow, all of a sudden, like, people go, this is a cool idea. It started off organically. 100% of the supply is out there. So then all of a sudden, the concept catches on and it starts to grow. So what happens is there is no more of a supply for people to get tokens from other than the other people that bought before them. So it's like saying if somebody buys something for $1 and they go, okay, I'm going to buy this, and in 3 months my plan is to sell it for $2. So let's just say, hypothetically, the price goes up a little bit, and 3 months later, a group of new people discover this token that other people initially discovered 3 months ago and bought it for cheap. Then these new people go, hey, I like this token. I realize you probably bought it for less. I want to buy it from you for more because I believe it's going to go higher. So then that person that bought it 3 months ago goes, okay, well, let me think. I bought it for whatever, a penny. I'll sell it to this guy for 2 pennies. So then that new guy buys it at 2 pennies and he's happy. So what happened is that supply that existed flipped a little bit. So now that token that was at 1 cent is now in the new person's hands at 2 cents, which raises the value of it. Okay? So let's just say hypothetically the crypto market's picking up, market sentiment's picking up, everything in the whole market starts kind of coming to life, right? So let's just say over the course of 3 months, 6 months, whatever, there's a bunch of buying and selling of that token. The price organically has gone up in price. So now months have gone by. The people that got in early, let's just say they sold a portion of their position. They're holding free tokens now. So now they're saying, hey, I made some money. I'm holding the token. And now there's really, a limited supply because everyone that owns this token bought it on the open market. So they all own what they own. And now we all know there's no more of an extra supply to come from. Unlike other tokens that sometimes have what's called an unlimited supply, which means instead of having a finite number like Suka does, like Pepe does, you could just create new tokens out of air. And what that does is that supply destroys the demand. Now, let me explain. Everything that I just explained was about a token that would be a fair launch token with 100% of the token distribution being distributed so that when everybody buys it early on, the price, say, goes higher over the next 3 months. There's no new tokens to enter the market to saturate that market, to dilute that market, to hurt the price. Okay? The only thing that could hurt the price is if that token loses the demand and everybody goes, man, I don't want to own this anymore because I don't see any future value in it. So they sell it, and then what happens is the price starts to go down. But if you have 100% of the supply out there and you want to get into that token, you're going to have to buy those tokens from someone else for more than they paid, unless they're willing to sell for less. But if there's demand, that price should keep creeping higher. The most important thing is to remember that 100% of the supply is already existing so that there's no more tokens that can be created to dilute the price. Now, this brings on scenario 2. Let's just say you have a team. This team decides to create this new token with the concept of XYZ. Cool. During that, they decide, let's take 50% of the supply, or let's just say, for example's sake, I'm going to make this real simple. Let's just say they take 20% of the supply only and say this is what's going to be distributed to all the retail holders, and 80% of the supply we are going to hold for whatever reason, for the future development of the project, for selling, for, raising capital down the road, to pay employees, whatever. So only 20% of that supply is in the market, right? So let's just say the token releases, it comes out, they do a sale and a bunch of people buy in. So let's just say there's 1,000 holders, right? A month goes by. There's 1,000 holders. 20% of the supply is available. The price, let's just say the token's doing okay. They're putting out news. They're getting people interested. The price is going higher, right? So let's just say it goes from 1 cent to 2 cents. It's up 100%. That's great. Okay? Now, all of a sudden, the team says, all right, everybody, we're going to do something different. Remember, the supply of the total, let's just say 1 billion, only 200 million was released to the public so that they could buy. Okay? This is extremely important. 20% of the supply was released. So 20% of the current supply is held by retail. And the price went from 1 cent to 2 cents. So now, simple math. If they were to take an additional 20 million of the supply and add it to the existing supply of 20 million, it would then increase the supply number from 20 million to 40 million, which essentially chops the price from 2 cents back to 1, because all that excess supply entered the market, which means all new people that want to get in will be able to get in for much cheaper because the total supply just doubled. So it's like, again, taking a watch, right? You have a Rolex and you have a Timex. A Rolex is a very well-made watch. It's got better components. It's put together better. There's less of them because it takes more time to make. So it makes sense that it would be maybe more in demand. It's more expensive. So people are willing to pay more money for a Rolex than a Timex. But how many Rolexes are produced each year versus how many Timexes? Because the Rolex takes much longer, it's got more value, it's worth more money, so more people are willing to spend more to buy it. That's like a token that has a supply that's been fully distributed and there's only that supply left. Whereas this other token that has a team, I'm comparing it to a Timex because at any time they could add new supply to the existing supply which dilutes it, eliminating the value. Simple supply and demand. You remember in high school, if there's a supply of something that's 10 and it gets chopped in half by 5, but there's 10 people that want it, initially if there's 10 and there's 10 people, each person can get one. But then what happens when the supply gets chopped in half, but there's still 10 people? The demand goes up, aka the price. So having a fixed supply in a market like this is essential. The only thing is, people don't really recognize it right now because there's not enough volume in the market for it to be recognized. However, once the market starts to go up and all this new money starts pouring in, tokens that have a 100% fully diluted distribution do not have the ability to add more tokens. So if that token that you own has elements of demand and everyone seems to like it and the trajectory starts to go up, from that point forward, it logically would make sense that if that trajectory or that trend is up, and as market conditions only are improving and new money's coming in, that trend will continue. Only if the supply is 100% fully diluted. Now, on the contrary, if that is the case and the price is going up and everything's great, but only 20% of your supply was introduced and the team then says, we're going to double the supply, that just decimated the price and every person that held that token, because they're basically saying, wait a minute, we had only 20 million or 200 million in the supply. Everything was going great. You just doubled it to 400 million. Now all these other people have the ability to buy for cheap because the supply went up, which destroys demand. So all these tokens last market cycle that started blowing up during this bull market where tons of money started pouring in, the teams started diluting the shit out of their own token to make money for themselves, which is essentially the purpose of crypto right now, because a lot of these companies aren't actually generating revenue. The money that they make comes from diluting their own freaking company. Ripple's probably the biggest, the biggest problem when it came to this. They diluted billions of dollars into the market. Billions, which means had those billions of dollars not been dumped into the market, it would have been like someone didn't, or it's the opposite of someone dumping. So if they diluted all these amounts of tokens, you do the you multiply it by the price and you come up with what the total value of what they just dumped into the market. So if somebody dumps $3 billion worth of tokens into the market, it's going to take $3 billion worth of buying to bring the price back to that same level. So that's why toxic dilution is so bad. So if you have a supply of 1 billion and only 200 million are currently in the supply, then everything's going great, everybody's having fun, and all of a sudden the team goes, we're going to dump more, price gets fucking killed, and then all of a sudden everyone holding it gets pissed off because the price just dropped. It's not an immediate thing. It happens over time, but it's again, simple supply and demand. If you have 10% of the supply in the market and something's trading at $1, and then the team says, we're going to dump the remaining 90%, the math indicates that that thing would go from $1 to 10 cents. Because if 10% of the supply was in the market, then they dumped an additional 90%, that completely destroys the entire token in every freaking way. Because all these new tokens were introduced, which means that demand element, which was making it valuable, is gone. Because all these tokens are there. Now, because there's so many new tokens, you could get them for cheap. And everyone that owned it was like, what the hell just happened? So that's why I am looking at these tokens that have 100% token distributions, that have good distributions, because I know if these tokens that I believe in, like Suka, like Pepe, I'm talking about Pepe a lot, Pepe, because I really think it's going to be successful because of these elements that I'm talking about. But again, right now people don't see it. I see it as being the female counterpart to Pepe, and the name of it is Pepe, which it's just perfect. And it's the pink version, and it's like, who knows, in 2 years from now, why can't people say, oh my God, that's Pepe? Like just automatically associating it to Pepe's girlfriend or wife. And if that happens, it's the token's going to be just as successful as Pepe, because the reason Pepe was so successful is people's association to it. So again, market psychology and math. So hopefully this explanation of how important a fully distributed token or fully distributed token distribution is as far as on a larger scale. So right now, we're really not witnessing how important it is, but just wait till the market starts to come alive and these other tokens or these other projects that have tons of tokens to dump into the market start doing that, and you're going to notice that those tokens don't go anywhere. It's like they're stuck. And then the tokens that will have the fully distributed 100% retail owned, they're going to be rocking and rolling because you're not going to have all that toxic dilution coming in, destroying the price. Looking forward to it. It's just the beginning. And like I say, this is like the turning part of the market. So, don't wait a year. Don't wait for everyone in the world to be already talking about crypto, because that'll be the time you want to be selling.